Are animals conscious? The question of whether animals are conscious has intrigued philosophers, scientists, and thinkers for centuries. The topic touches on the essence of what it means to be sentient, aware, and capable of experiencing the world. While humans often view themselves as the epitome of conscious beings, the evidence supporting the idea that animals possess some form of consciousness continues to grow. This video delves into the concept of consciousness, the evidence for and against animal consciousness, and the implications of accepting that non-human creatures may share this fundamental trait. Consciousness, in its simplest terms, refers to the state of being aware of and able to respond to one's surroundings. More broadly, can involve the experience of thoughts, emotions, sensations, and a sense of self. Defining consciousness, however, remains one of the most challenging tasks in neuroscience and philosophy. For humans, consciousness is evident through language, reflection, and complex behavior. But when we try to evaluate the consciousness of animals, we face a unique challenge. Animals cannot communicate their subjective experiences in the way humans can. This lack of verbal communication has historically led many to assume that animals are merely instinct-driven creatures, lacking the inner world that humans possess. In the past, the dominant view among scientists and philosophers was rooted in Cartesian dualism, as espoused by René Descartes. Descartes famously argued that animals were automatons, biological machines responding reflexively to stimuli without conscious awareness. His view held sway for centuries, influencing how humans treated animals in scientific experiments, agriculture, and daily life. However, this perspective has increasingly been challenged by empirical evidence and philosophical arguments. Modern science has opened the door to a more nuanced understanding of animal minds. Research in ethology, neuroscience, and psychology has revealed that many animals exhibit behaviors that suggest complex mental processes. For instance, primates such as chimpanzees and bonobos have demonstrated the ability to recognize themselves in mirrors, a trait often considered a hallmark of self-awareness. Similarly, studies of elephants and dolphins show behaviors such as mourning their dead, which implies a deeper emotional awareness. Even birds like crows and parrots display problem-solving abilities and tool use that rival some of the most intelligent mammals. Neuroscience provides further evidence for animal consciousness. Many non-human animals possess brain structures similar to those in humans, such as the cerebral cortex and limbic system, which are associated with higher-order thinking and emotional processing. While the architecture of animal brains varies significantly across species, the presence of neural circuits that enable perception, decision-making, and learning suggests that animals may also have subjective experiences. Moreover, studies on pain perception in animals reveal that they respond to noxious stimuli not merely reflexively, but in ways consistent with experiencing suffering. For example, injured animals often modify their behavior to avoid exacerbating pain, indicating a level of awareness beyond pure instinct. Behavioral evidence also supports the idea of animal consciousness. Consider the social behaviors observed in certain species. Wolves and lions hunt in coordinated groups, demonstrating not only strategic thinking but also an understanding of others' roles within the group. Cetaceans such as orcas and dolphins engage in highly complex social interactions, including teaching their young, cooperating with one another, and even forming long-term bonds. Such behaviors suggest the presence of social intelligence, which in humans is closely tied to consciousness. While the evidence for animal consciousness is compelling, there are counterarguments that merit consideration. Critics argue that behaviors interpreted as signs of consciousness could simply be advanced forms of instinct or evolutionary programming. For example, an animal mourning a dead companion might not necessarily experience grief in the human sense, but could instead be exhibiting behaviors that evolved to maintain group cohesion. Similarly, tool use and problem solving might result from trial and error learning rather than conscious thought. Without direct access to an animal's subjective experiences, it is difficult to definitively prove the existence of consciousness. Philosophers such as Thomas Nagel have highlighted this epistemological barrier in their famous thought experiment about bats. Nagel argued that even if we understand how a bat's brain processes information, we cannot truly know what it feels like to be a bat. This perspective underscores the inherent difficulty in studying consciousness, especially in non-human species. Nonetheless, many researchers adopt the principle of parsimony, suggesting that the simplest explanation for animals' complex behaviors is that they, like humans, possess some form of awareness. The implications of recognizing animal consciousness are profound. If animals are conscious beings capable of experiencing pain, joy, and fear, then the ethical framework governing how humans interact with them must change. Practices such as factory farming, animal testing, and habitat destruction become more morally fraught when viewed through the lens of animal sentience. Many animal rights advocates argue that granting animals moral consideration is a logical extension of the idea that consciousness, not species membership, should determine how a being is treated. In recent years, there has been a growing movement toward recognizing the rights and welfare of animals. Legal systems in some countries have begun to acknowledge animals as sentient beings rather than mere property. Scientific institutions are increasingly adopting humane methods of research that minimize animal suffering. Public attitudes toward animals are also shifting, as people become more aware of the cognitive and emotional capacities of non-human species. The question of animal consciousness is far from settled, but it is clear that the gap between human and non-human minds is not as vast as once believed. From the playful intelligence of octopuses to the empathetic behaviors of dogs, animals exhibit a wide range of traits that suggest they possess rich inner lives. While the precise nature of their consciousness remains elusive, the evidence invites us to reconsider how we view and treat the other inhabitants of our planet. In conclusion, the idea that animals are conscious is supported by a growing body of scientific and philosophical evidence. While skepticism remains, the burden of proof increasingly falls on those who deny animal consciousness rather than those who affirm it. Acknowledging the possibility of animal consciousness does not diminish the uniqueness of human experience, but instead broadens our understanding of the diverse forms of life that share our world. Ultimately, embracing the idea that animals are conscious may lead to a more compassionate and ethical relationship between humans and the natural world. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel for more videos exploring fascinating topics like why we question the world around us.